Mr. Reid? This is Ivy Grove Estate. We've been instructed to remove you from the wedding guest list. Oh, and your $80,000 deposit is non-refundable. I froze. The words echoed through my office like a slap across the face. Not a question. Not a warning. Just erasure. Clinical. Cold. I let the silence stretch for a moment, unsure whether to laugh or throw my phone across the room. But I didn't do either. Because deep down, I wasn't surprised. Not really. You see, I'm Jackson Reid. 32. Founder and CEO of Reid & Company. Weddings, the biggest luxury wedding service in Charleston, South Carolina. And I just got banned from my own sister's wedding. Scratch that, my half-sister's. Her name is Madison. Daddy's perfect little angel. The daughter from the second marriage. She got the big house, the pearls, the country club summers. I got silence. And when Mom passed, I got left behind. But even after all that, when Madison got engaged, I stepped up. I funded her wedding. I coordinated everything, the venue, the florals, the catering, the photo team, the transportation. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because I thought, maybe this time I'd be seen. But today? Today, they crossed a line. I looked out the window of my office, the same garage I renovated with my own hands when I had nothing but a Craigslist desk and a coffee machine that spat steam like a dragon. Outside, my team was loading flower arrangements for another couple. Real love. Real joy. The kind that doesn't come with backhanded invitations. I turned back to my laptop. Clicked open the shared calendar. Clicked each vendor name one by one. Cancel. 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 No anger. No tears. Just precision. Just truth. They canceled my seat, I whispered, so I canceled their stage. Let them feel what it's like to be erased. You don't grow up in a house like mine without learning how to disappear. My father, Charles Reid, was the kind of man who wore legacy like a tailored suit, pressed, polished, and airtight. He married young, divorced younger, and rebuilt his life with someone more fitting to his social aspirations. My mother, Evelyn, didn't fit the mold. She had too much warmth in a world that praised cold calculation. When she died, I was 16. I didn't cry at the funeral. Not because I wasn't shattered, because I knew no one would care if I was. That day, my father barely looked at me. Madison was there, clinging to his arm, the picture of a grieving daughter. She wore pearls and tears and everything expected of the real child. I stood 3 feet away and felt like a ghost. No condolences. No invitation to the family car. Just a pat on the shoulder and a cab fare home. I stopped expecting anything after that. College was out of the question. No inheritance, no trust fund, no phone calls. I worked construction by day and washed dishes by night, saving every dollar I could. Then one night, while fixing up a dilapidated barn on the outskirts of Charleston, I had a vision. Weddings. Not the stiff, soulless kind my family paraded around. But honest ones. Ones that made people feel chosen, not tolerated. I started with a folding table, a borrowed tent, and a single Craigslist ad. By year 2, I had hosted 17 weddings, 3 of them for couples who said no one else would take them. By year 5, I had a team. A fleet. A name. Reid & Company. No one knew the Reid came from that family. I kept it quiet. Let the empire speak for itself. So when Madison got engaged and Daddy Dearest asked me if I could help out with some arrangements, I didn't hesitate. Part of me thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is how I'm welcomed back. I never expected gratitude. But I didn't expect to be erased either. They took my money. My work. My silence. And then they crossed the line. But here's the thing about being the forgotten son. We remember everything. And we learn how to take it back, piece by piece. They thought they were cutting off a guest. What they really did was declare war on the man who built the battlefield. See, the thing about legacy families like mine? They assume power only flows through bloodlines and bank accounts. But real power, the kind that doesn't wear a name tag, moves in silence. And I had been silent for 7 years. In that time, I didn't just start a wedding company. I built a network. A living, breathing ecosystem. One where every bouquet, every canopy, every photo frame came from a piece of me. Ivy Grove Estate? My first venue. I mortgaged my soul to buy that crumbling plantation house. Spent nights scraping floors and painting walls until my hands blistered. Now? It's one of Charleston's most sought-after wedding spots, booked out 18 months in advance. Silver Bloom Florals? Run by Rosa, a former florist who couldn't get a foot in the door because she didn't have a design degree. I gave her the door. Now she designs centerpieces for governors' daughters. Vow and Feast Catering? Built from scratch in a food truck I bought at auction. Now it caters to politicians, influencers, and, ironically, the kind of people who used to laugh at me. Grace Lens Studios. Charleston Elite Transportation. Magnolia Music Collective. They were all mine. And not just mine, loyal to me. Because I didn't build them with contracts. I built them with second chances. So when that phone call came, when they told me I was no longer welcome, I didn't flinch. I didn't beg. I just opened my dashboard, took a breath, and began to dismantle their dream, one click at a time. Venue, released. Florals, cancelled. Food, gone. Photographers, reassigned. Music, unplugged. Transportation, redirected. Within 2 hours, the wedding of the year became a blank calendar. Madison would show up to white folding chairs on brown grass. No arch. No altar. No aisle. Just silence. The best part? They still hadn't realized who pulled the strings. They still thought I was just some bitter stepbrother who got his feelings hurt. What they didn't know was that I was the architect of their fantasy. And now? I was their undoing. The first call came in at 7:12 a.m. My phone lit up with Mother, home. Not even her name. Just that cold, generic label she'd assigned herself on my contacts list years ago, back when she decided being my stepmother was a formality, not a relationship. I let it ring. Then again. And again. By the time 8 o'clock hit, there were 7 missed calls. Then came the texts. Jackson, there's a mistake with the venue. Call me. The florist isn't answering. Did something happen? We need to talk. Please. Please. Funny how that word only shows up after things fall apart. At 9:18 a.m., Madison finally broke the silence. What did you do? No hi. No punctuation. Just rage, pure and raw, pounding through my screen like a tantrum in digital form. I picked up this time. Not because I owed her anything, but because I wanted her to hear the quiet in my voice. Good morning, I said calmly. Don't good morning me, Jackson. Everything's gone. The venue cancelled, the food is gone, the cars, what the hell is happening? I took a slow sip of my coffee. You cancelled my invitation. I cancelled your wedding. Silence. Then static rage. You're punishing me because of some childish grudge? Because Daddy didn't pick your mom? This isn't just about you, Jackson. I laughed. A short, bitter exhale. No, Madison. This has never been about me. It's always been about you. You, and a family that only sees value in people when it benefits them. You wanted my money, my contacts, my work, but not my presence. I didn't know, she shouted. I didn't even know you were behind it all. Exactly, I said. You never bothered to ask. The line went quiet again. I could hear her breathing, fast, uneven, panicked. In the background, someone yelled. Probably the planner. Or what was left of her. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. They thought they could rewrite the story. Pretend I didn't exist. But I was never just a footnote. I was the foundation. And now, they were standing in the ruins of a celebration built on silence. You erased your brother, I said softly, now your wedding doesn't exist. Then I hung up. There's a kind of silence that doesn't mean peace. It's not the soft kind that settles over a room when two people finally understand each other. It's the heavy kind. The kind that fills your lungs when you're the only one left at the dinner table. The kind that screams when no one calls you home for the holidays. I've carried that silence since I was 10. I remember one Christmas, Madison got a diamond bracelet from Dad. I got a used winter coat, from the maid. She handed it to me at the back door like it was contraband. My father didn't say a word. So I learned not to expect words. When Mom died, I didn't cry, not because I wasn't broken, but because crying felt like shouting into a canyon where no one was listening. Instead, I folded her old scarf into my backpack and left. No college acceptance letter. No dorm room photos. Just me, a second-hand laptop, and a vision. At first, people laughed when I said I wanted to start a wedding business. Jackson Reid? You barely have enough for rent. They were right. I didn't. I slept in my car for 2 months while I painted my first venue myself, walls, trim, plumbing, everything. I worked every shift. Hauled chairs. Took photos. Cooked when the caterer bailed. I was a one-man band playing love songs no one believed in. But I believed. I believed because it was the only thing that made me feel real. And when I got my first thank you letter from a bride who said I made her feel seen, it hit me. That's all I ever wanted. To be seen. To matter. So I kept building. Quietly. Silently. And now, the same people who never saw me had built their dream on the foundation I created, and still didn't recognize the hands that held them up. Until I took them away. Some people think revenge is loud, shouting, screaming, breaking things. But for me, it's silence. Unapologetic. Controlled. Deafening. Because when you've spent your whole life being talked over, there's power in letting the silence speak for you. The call came in at midnight. Private number. I almost ignored it. Most late-night calls mean emergencies, or regrets. Turns out, this one was both. Jackson? It's Ethan. I didn't speak at first. Just let the silence hang, thick and heavy. Let him earn the space. I know this is unexpected, he continued. But I figured after everything, the least I could do is reach out directly. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the photos pinned to my office wall, snapshots from the 100 weddings I'd helped create. Smiles, tears, vows. Real ones. Look, I didn't know. About you. About what you did. There it was. I thought the venue, the florist, the catering, all of it, was something Madison's parents pulled together. She never said otherwise. She just kept talking about how lucky we were. How everything was falling into place. I bit my tongue. Of course she didn't say otherwise. Why give credit to the brother who'd been erased from every family photo? But then today, everything fell apart. And I started asking questions. He paused. The silence on his end wasn't empty, it was heavy. Like shame. Your name came up. Over and over. And I realized, this entire wedding wasn't built by the Reids. It was built by you. I let out a slow breath. Not quite relief. Not anger, either. Just acknowledgement. I'm sorry, Ethan said. For not knowing. For being part of this without realizing what it cost you. What do you want from me? I finally asked, voice flat. Nothing, he replied. I needed you to hear it from me. You deserved better than what they did. Than what she did. That last word lingered. I don't even know who I'm marrying anymore, he added, softer now. All this time, she's been telling stories about family, unity, but leaving out you. And now that I know the truth, I don't know if I can look at her the same way. I didn't offer advice. Or comfort. This wasn't my mess to fix. But I will say this. Hearing him acknowledge the truth, that was the first time in a long time I felt like someone saw all of me. Not just the brother in the shadows. Not just the bank account behind the curtain. Just Jackson. Thank you, I said. And meant it. Before we hung up, he asked one last thing. If you had the chance, would you still want to be part of this wedding? I smiled. Ethan, that wedding doesn't exist anymore. Revenge wasn't the plan. At least, not like this. I didn't want headlines. I didn't want drama. I didn't even want them to suffer, not really. What I wanted was to rewrite the story. To take back the pages they tried to tear out of my life. Not by burning theirs, but by building something better in its place. So the next morning, I made a call. Not to a lawyer. Not to Madison. To Jamie and Luis. A couple I'd met 2 months earlier. Young, bright, fiercely in love, and absolutely devastated when their wedding venue backed out last minute. The reason? They were LGBTQ+. The church that was supposed to host their wedding reconsidered once they saw the engagement photos. Told them they could still attend service, just not as a couple. Jamie cried in my office. Luis just stared at the floor. I'd promised them I'd find another space. But everything good was booked out. Or at least, it was. Until now. I called Jamie. She answered on the first ring. Is it still just the two of you, 100 guests, garden-style seating, sunset vows? She hesitated. Yes, why? Ivy Grove Estate is available this Saturday. So are florals. And catering. And photography. The works. No cost. It's yours, if you'll let me host it. Silence. Then a soft gasp. Jackson, are you serious? I've never been more. By noon, my team was moving. Rosa rewrote the floral design in one sitting. The catering crew flipped the entire menu to fit the new couple's culture. We even brought in a gospel choir for the ceremony. Luis's grandmother had always dreamed of hearing one live. Every detail that was supposed to make Madison's wedding perfect was now being used to honor something real. And for the first time in weeks, my venue didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like a home. We put their names in gold above the arch. Set their story in motion under the oak trees. Laughter filled the space where entitlement once stood. And when Jamie walked down the aisle, arm in arm with her father, tears streaming, I knew. This was the wedding that mattered. Not because it was extravagant. But because it was true. They erased me to protect their image. I gave my stage to people who had been erased by everyone. And that was the most beautiful revenge I could imagine. It started with a photo. Just one. Jamie and Luis under the ivy-covered archway at sunset, hands clasped, foreheads touching. Behind them, gold lettering read. Everyone deserves to be seen. Our photographer posted it on her studio's Instagram with a simple caption. They were turned away by a church. But they found sanctuary under the trees. Love wins. It had 12,000 likes by midnight. By morning, it was on BuzzFeed. Then Twitter. Then TikTok. Hashtags started popping up like wildflowers. Hashtag right to celebrate. Hashtag the forgotten son. Hashtag Ivy Grove Truth. People began asking questions. Who funded the wedding? Why was this venue suddenly available? Wait, isn't Ivy Grove booked out for a year? Then someone dug deeper. A local wedding planner tweeted a thread connecting the dots. So you're telling me the guy who hosted this LGBTQ plus wedding is the same guy whose sister just cancelled her entire event out of nowhere, at the same venue, that he owns, after she kicked him off the guest list? Boom. The internet exploded. Reddit sleuths uncovered old photos. An article from 5 years ago about a young entrepreneur restoring historic properties in Charleston. Jackson Reid. Me. And just like that, the narrative flipped. From outcast to icon. From invisible to unstoppable. My inbox flooded with interview requests. Brides and grooms from across the country asked to reschedule with my company, even some who had previously overlooked me for more established names. I got DMs from people I'd never met, thanking me for doing what so many of us wish we could. One message stopped me cold. My brother came out last year. Our parents disowned him. Your wedding post made him cry, in a good way. Thank you for showing him that family can be chosen. I stared at the screen for a long time. This wasn't just about Madison anymore. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about reclaiming space, for the unseen, the unloved, the discarded. And turning it into something unshakably human. Madison's name was nowhere in the headlines. But mine? It was on every screen. Not as the angry brother. Not as the forgotten son. But as the man who turned rejection into a revolution. The cancellation wasn't official. Until Ethan walked out. No press release. No dramatic showdown. Just a quiet decision, made in the middle of a storm he no longer wanted to stand in. He called Madison from his car, parked 3 blocks from Ivy Grove. I'm not coming to the rehearsal. Her voice cracked through the phone. What do you mean you're not coming? Ethan, we have a guest list of 300 people. Do we? He cut in. Because from what I can tell, it's more like your guest list. Your image. Your family. Your rules. Silence. And Jackson, he continued. The man who built this entire thing? You erased him. Just like that. Because it was convenient. She tried to explain, to spin it. He was never really part of the family. He offered to help. We didn't owe him anything. No, Madison. You owed him respect. There it was. The fracture that couldn't be patched with peonies and plated salmon. That night, Ethan posted a simple statement on Instagram. There will be no wedding this weekend. I won't be part of something built on silence, exclusion, and borrowed status. I believe love should honor all of who we are, including where we come from. It went viral within hours. And Madison? She unraveled. Photos of her crying outside a shuttered bridal boutique surfaced the next morning. Headlines followed. Charleston heiress left at the altar amid family scandal. #Right to celebrate sparks backlash against elite wedding culture. Bride's brother cancelled wedding. Public applauds. Even the vendors who once scrambled to land the Reid account went quiet. Her mother stopped answering calls. Her father left for business in Europe. The wedding that was supposed to make her the envy of Charleston became the reason no one would return her emails. Meanwhile, Ivy Grove was still glowing. Photos of Jamie and Louise filled timelines. News anchors called it the most talked about wedding of the year. And me? I stayed silent. Not because I had nothing to say. But because, sometimes, the loudest statement is watching the empire they tried to build collapse. Without ever raising your voice. They asked to meet at Ivy Grove. I almost laughed. After everything, after the erasure, the lies, the headlines, they wanted to sit at my table. The same table they never thought I'd build. The same table I once begged for a seat at. But I said yes. Not for them. For me. When I walked into the garden room, they were already there. My father. His new wife. Madison. No flowers. No fake smiles. Just tension so thick, it held the air hostage. My father stood first, offering a stiff handshake. I ignored it. Madison's eyes were swollen. No makeup, no deflection. For the first time, she looked human. Small. Not in size, in presence. They started with small talk. Weather. Headlines. Spineless attempts at politeness. I cut through it. Why am I here? My father cleared his throat. We wanted to apologize. For how things were handled. For how we made you feel. Made me feel? I repeated. You didn't make me feel invisible. You made me be invisible. 4 years. Silence. You took everything I offered and acted like it came from the sky. Like I didn't bleed for this family. Madison spoke next, her voice cracking. I was wrong, Jackson. I didn't see it. I didn't see you. And I'm sorry. Her words hung in the air. Sincere? Maybe. Enough? Not even close. I'm not here for closure, I said. I'm here to set terms. They blinked. Confused. Hopeful. I held up 3 fingers. 1. You issue a public apology, naming me, acknowledging what happened, and owning the truth. 2. You admit your behavior wasn't about family. It was about status, control, and shame. 3. From this day forward, you treat every person you meet, regardless of bloodline, bank balance, or last name, with respect. Or you lose them. My father shifted, uncomfortable. Is this about revenge? No, I said. This is about restoration. You taught me something valuable. That silence lets people shape you into whatever suits them. But I've found my voice. And I won't lower it again just so you can sleep better at night. Madison wiped her face. Her voice was barely a whisper. Will you ever forgive us? I stared at her. Forgiveness isn't something I give to make you feel whole. It's something I consider when I'm whole. And with that, I stood. Walked out into the sun-drenched lawn of Ivy Grove, the same ground that once made me feel small. Not anymore. Respect isn't a birthright. It took me years to understand that. I used to think, if I worked hard enough, stayed quiet enough, proved myself enough, respect would just come. Like a prize handed out for good behavior. But it doesn't. Not in families built on image. Not in rooms where your name is whispered, but never welcomed. And definitely not from people who only love you when it's convenient. I spent a lifetime shrinking myself to fit into a version of the story that made everyone else look better. I erased my voice so they could write the narrative. Let them take credit, take control, take everything, because I was too afraid that speaking up would make me the villain. But silence doesn't make you noble. It makes you disappear. And disappearing isn't the same as forgiving. What I learned, what I earned, was this. You don't have to prove your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You don't have to keep bleeding for those who only show up when they need a transfusion. You can walk away. And when you do, you might just find your voice waiting for you at the end of the hallway. Dusty. A little bruised. But strong. Stronger than you ever thought. They called me bitter. They said I was dramatic. Petty. Difficult. Unforgiving. Let them talk. Because while they were busy protecting their image, I was building a place where people could actually be seen. Ivy Grove isn't just a venue. It's a sanctuary for the forgotten, the overlooked, the not quite enoughs. And me? I'm not the angry son anymore. I'm the man who learned to write his own ending. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't a scream. It's a legacy. 6 months later, I stood on a very different stage. No aisle. No arch. No bouquet. Just a podium. A spotlight. And 300 entrepreneurs staring up at me, waiting for something real. The Charleston Founders Summit. I was the closing keynote. Funny how life works. Last year, they wouldn't even list Reid and Company on their website. Too unorthodox. Too emotional for a business panel. But now? Now I was the one they flew in to close the show. The MC introduced me as the man who built an empire in silence, and then broke the internet without saying a word. That got a laugh. But I wasn't there to entertain. I was there to tell the truth. I looked out at the audience. Young faces. Tired faces. People with dreams bigger than their bank accounts and louder than their family's doubts. And I said, I started my company in a garage no one believed in, including me. I wasn't the golden child. I wasn't the one with connections, or capital, or a name that opened doors. But I learned something: you don't have to wait for someone to invite you to the table. Sometimes, you build your own damn table. Silence. The kind that listens. And when they tell you you're too sensitive, too dramatic, too hard to work with, what they often mean is, you're harder to control. So don't shrink. Don't water down your story so someone else can swallow it easier. Tell it. All of it. Even the parts they tried to erase. I paused. Looked down at my hands, same hands that once scrubbed floors at Ivy Grove. Same hands that hit cancel on Madison's wedding with a single tap. And then I ended with this. I didn't build venues. I built places where people are finally seen. And maybe, just maybe, the person who needed to be seen the most was me. Standing ovation. Not because I was flawless. Not because I'd won. But because I'd stopped asking permission to exist. Fade out. Voiceover as music swells. Family doesn't begin with blood. It begins with recognition. Respect doesn't come from being invited in. It comes from what you build when they shut you out.